Yes, 2-5 Daily Sports Reports is ordered. 2-5. Like, review, subscribe, share, rate, do all the free things. Do all the good things. So, let's get right to it. Today, down in Gainesville, we got some unexpected news. For the last 2-3 months, we were talking about how Billy Napier was going to get fired as the head coach of Florida. So, as we walk through this, just think about the things I'm about to say and the numbers that I give you here. So, in his 3 years, this is year 3 as the Gator head coach, he's 15-19. They've had losing seasons, both of the first 2 seasons. They're 4-4 right now. Graham Mertz out for the season. Even though I do think DJ Lagway is the better quarterback, he's injured. We'll see if he plays at Texas this weekend. But as we currently stand, they are 21.5-point underdogs in Austin. They still have LSU. They still have Ole Miss. And don't you dare even think about losing to Florida State, even though I would love that. But the point being is that these votes of confidence don't really mean that much. Look in the NFL right now. Doug Peterson, Trevor Lawrence not playing this weekend. Is he going to get shoulder surgery and be out for the season? They're sitting on 1 win. He got the vote of confidence before they went to England. He ain't going to be there next year. Tom Herman, he got the vote of confidence when he was the head coach of Texas. He wasn't there that next year. So don't get too comfortable, Billy Napier. Now, it's not just the schedule. And I have to give him credit because the players are still playing for him. They're still playing hard. They should have beat Tennessee. That's one of the games that might get them fired because of some coaching decisions late in that game, including not going for 2 and going for the win, letting it go to overtime after being up 10-0 and holding Tennessee scoreless in the first half. So that's going to come back to bite you. So we look back at Dan Mullen, who came in first 2 years as the Gators head coach, 11 wins and 10 respectively. It was trending downward, and NIL came into the picture. So Dan Mullen is a coach's coach. He has his system, his style, and this is what he's going to do, right? You have an identity. But the recruiting wasn't up to par for the Gators. And I mean, in his last year, they were 5-6. They didn't let him coach against Florida State. So then, as you look back at it, Billy Napier, before he came to Florida, at the University of Louisiana, 4 Sun Belt titles, either outright or shared. Put Louisiana on the map back when they, remember that? Louisiana Lafayette? They're the Louisiana Raging Cajuns now, and he's a big part of how they're recognized today. Back then, it was noted that he's a part of Nick Saban's tree. You don't hear that no more, do you? You don't even hear that anymore. But, his buyout is about $27 million. So that might be one of the reasons why he got that vote of confidence, because Florida doesn't want to spend the money. And I don't blame them. You got House versus NCAA going on. So back to the transfer portal, Dan Mullen wasn't looking for superstar recruits. He was looking for people that could implement what he was trying to accomplish. Billy Napier comes in, killed recruiting the first couple of years, the first year at Florida. Hired in Miami, hired in Florida State. But these recruits are fickle. If you don't produce, they're not going to come there. So DJ Lagway is in now. You were this close to beating Georgia last week. 20-6 lead. Lagway gets hurt, and then Georgia storms back and scores 28 unanswered. I don't want to blame him for that because your quarterback got hurt. So you get a pass for that. I think DJ Lagway is the better option than Graham Mertz anyway. Graham Mertz is a very efficient quarterback that will run an offense and manage the game. DJ Lagway makes things happen. 37 yards per completion against Kentucky. Who does that? right? So this year, you look at Billy Napier and you say, oh, Florida's got to fire him. Look at their record. This is not the Florida standard. And then you turn around and see they lost to Texas A&M, who just lost their first SEC game this past weekend. Miami, who's undefeated in the ACC and about to go to the playoff more than likely. Tennessee, who's only lost one game, got a big matchup in Georgia in a few weeks, beat Alabama. Georgia, who walked into Austin and walked out with Texas's ass on their foot. So when I look at this, I don't want to blame the guy and say you got to go, because a lot of coaches would lose to those teams and on this type of schedule where you got to play all those teams. The schedule was lamented about when the season started. Before the season even started, it was if Florida can make a bowl game, that's a successful season. You just don't want to hear that because the Gators are one of the, I don't want to call them a blue blood. Don't give them that much respect. But they're one of the great teams and great athletic programs in college sports. So 6-6 just ain't going to cut it no matter what your schedule is. So Billy Napier, go 6-6 because I don't know if you can survive another 5-7. All right. So Friday night football, it's a thing, Memphis and Rice, I'm going to call Memphis to win there. I'm not going to get too deep into that one, but then you got this ACC matchup that a lot of us thought would never, ever be an ACC matchup, but there's no Pac-10 anymore. So here we are, Cal and Wake Forest. The Golden Bears come in. Coach Justin Wilcox. I've said it before the season. I think he's on the hot seat. His defense plays well, but Cal had a hard time scoring. They have Jaden Ott. And for this particular season, they have the dubious distinction of being the only team to lose to Florida State. And Florida State hasn't even scored 21 points in a game yet or 20 points in a game yet, besides the Georgia Tech game. So what does that tell you? So Cal, off of a bye. Last time we saw them, they were laying the smackdown on the Beavers from Oregon State. To their credit, just like I said about Billy Napier, they lost all these games, but Cal lost all 4 of their games, and by the way, they were all ACC games, by 9 points. So they're not getting dominated. They're not getting beat on. They had the big lead against Miami a few weeks ago, blew that. Michael Irvin doggy style on the sideline. But Fernando Mendoza, their quarterback, is starting to click. That last game against Oregon State that I brought up, 324 yards, which was a career high for him. They have Jaden Ott in the backfield, one of the best running backs in the country that you don't hear about because Cal isn't relevant. Wake Forest in this game, 2 things are going to be the factor in this game. You got Hank Bachmeier at quarterback. He was the quarterback at Boise State last year, transferred in, or one of the quarterbacks, I should say, from Boise State, transferred in. And then the offense is creative. They're going to improvise on plays and adapt to what the defense gives them, but their goal is to run the ball, right? But when you're playing a team like Cal with that stingy defense, that's going to be hard to come by. So Bachmeier needs to not throw the game away. He needs to not impersonate Jordan Love, hold on to the football and make things happen. But what the defense gives you. So be patient, take your time, go through all your reads and progressions. Now, the second thing is that they have to survive the third quarter. In their 8 games this year, Cal has outscored their opponents in the third quarter 61-8. So Wake Forest has to hold on to the football and survive the third quarter. So what do I think? Cal favored by 7.5. I don't like it. Give me Wake Forest in the upset, and we're going to call it 28-24. Then you got the Rose Bowl, the scene of the crime, if you will. You got the Iowa Hawkeyes coming in, and you know what's so great about the Iowa Hawkeyes this year? They're actually averaging 30.8 points this year. How many people knew that? How many people knew that? Remember last year, the drive for 325, they had to score 325 points in their 12 games to save the offensive coordinator, Bryant Ferentz's job. Now, Kirk is still back as the head coach. Iowa comes in this game favored by 6.5. That's what I was just checking just to make sure I had the number right. I don't think that's enough. I truly don't. But UCLA has improved over the last couple of weeks. They've come a long way from that team that was struggling in Hawaii to start the season. UCLA is another one of those teams where it took us a while to figure out how good they were because Ethan Garbers was turning the ball over, and to top that all off, you look at who they played. They've already played Indiana. They've played Penn State. They've played Oregon. So they haven't had this schedule where they had a lot of cupcakes. They went to LSU. So they haven't had this schedule. So it's easy to look at their record and say, oh, this team doesn't have talent. Oh, this team. No, UCLA's defense is actually pretty good. They walked into Lincoln Memorial Stadium last week and beat the Huskers, who, remember, at the beginning of the season was America's sweetheart, especially after they beat Colorado. People love that. So the last 3 games, or the last 2 games, I'm sorry, Ethan Garbers, 6 touchdowns, no interceptions. Before that, previous games, he had 5 games of multiple interceptions, or 5 games with an interception, 3 of those multiple interceptions. So they're going to have to contain Caleb Johnson, the number 2 runner in the nation. Of course, Ashton Jeanty in front. He's 3rd in touchdowns behind Bryson Daly at Army and Jeanty. So Iowa has installed Brendan Sullivan at quarterback. What did he do? Beat Wisconsin 42-10 last week in his first start. He played sparingly before that because Cade McNamara has been ineffective all season. And it's decisions like that where you go back and look and say, why did Cade McNamara start in the first place? Because you paid him NIL? You had to get your money's worth? Because he's an upperclassman? He has the experience, so you figure that he gives you the best chance to win? No, the best player gives you the best chance to win. And I think Iowa recognizes that now. Hawking them, no pun intended, is going to be Jay Higgins, who's 4th in the whole FBS in tackles. Now, as bad as Florida State's offense is, and I know I don't want to keep bringing up Florida State, it's my team and all of that, but they're just bad this year, so it applies. But UCLA is the worst rushing team in the nation at 73.9 yards a game. And if you can't control the ball against Iowa, it's not going to end well for you. So Iowa, I believe, is going to rush for at least 250 yards in this game. And I think they're going to win along the lines of 34-20. That is not an indictment on UCLA, Deshaun Foster. It's just what it is. Iowa, if they would have started Brendan Sullivan sooner, they don't have 3 losses and they're a contender for the Big Ten title, in my opinion. So it just is what it is. But finally, to top it all off, we got a little bit of expansion news. So, the Mountain West, last time we talked about the Mountain West, it was put out in the street that they were sending out feelers to Northern Illinois and Toledo. So right now it looks like Northern Illinois is not going to play ball right now. And that was going to be football only, but Toledo hasn't said either way from what I've been hearing underground, right? So now something that I brought up at the beginning of this was you're going to have to reach into FCS. You're going to have to reach into the Big Sky, possibly grab the 2 Montana schools. You're going to have to possibly grab Sacramento State. And, of course, North Dakota State. 9 out of the last 12 FCS national titles, they've beaten FCS teams over the years. They have a brand, and even though they're not in a big city, they have the potential to be the next Boise State, just off of their commitment to football, their pedigree, and what they bring in. You know, they just churn out good coaches somehow up in Fargo, North Dakota. So this is fresh off of the Mountain West adding Grand Canyon to their basketball lineup, which I think is a great move because they made the NCAA tournament last year, gave Alabama all they could handle, and they're just going to be coming for the next couple of years. They're a for-profit school, so they got the money to go get players. But anyway, North Dakota State. If North Dakota State was in the Mountain West this season, I think they could finish at least third. You know, Boise, UNLV, North Dakota State. I think they would beat Colorado State. So this could be a great get. Excuse me. That could be a great get for the Mountain West. But I'm going to keep my eye on it, and maybe we'll see something coming up shortly. So, hey, like, review, subscribe, share, rate. Do all the free things. Do all the good things. Enjoy your football.